You're listening to Inside Real Estate, your source for all things mortgage and real estate related. The show that brings you all the hottest topics and insights directly from those who know it most. Now sit back and enjoy the show.
What is up, everyone? Paul Pastelakis, Salvatore Kuzmano. We are missing Brad Weisgerber today. We are Inside Real Estate. Welcome to another episode. For those of you finding us again, thank you so much for listening in. We obviously appreciate the patronage. If this is your first time, welcome. You can find us at irepodcast.com. You can go to Facebook.com/IRE podcast. You can go to YouTube. You can really listen to us on any podcast app that you should please like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for any new episodes. And please leave us a review. That really does help us out a lot. Salvatore Kuzmano, what is up, man? Rates are high as shit.
What's going on, man? I would say rates are higher, but they're still pretty low. You know, if you look at
they're still. So, I mean, historically, like we're below 5%. I still think real estate is a really good investment, even at 5%.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think we'll be at, depending what happens, I think we could be at 5+ pretty soon, though. You know. So
yeah, I mean we're creeping up there.
Yeah,
we're creeping up there. We're getting up there, like 4.75 right now, Sal.
Yeah, I'd say about that with excellent credit, 4.75. If you got middle range credit, you're probably more like 5 1/8. So
wow,
yeah.
So we're already on some deals. We're already at 5%, right?
Yeah, for sure. I locked in 5 the other day, so it is what it is, right?
It is what it is. People are still buying houses. Demand is still really high. This supply issue is not going away. I feel like this. Do you think this market's like unhealthy right now because of the way that it's kind of sitting? Like if you're a buyer right now, putting 5% down on a house, if you don't have money for appraisal guarantees or pay cash or all this stuff to win offers, it's pretty hard for a first-time home buyer to win an offer right now, wouldn't you say?
I mean, I guess it just depends, right? I think cash allows you to get a little more creative with your offers, right? With the appraisal guarantees and whatnot. Right. But, I mean, that's kind of been the tale that's becoming like the broken record, right? Appraisal guarantees, this, that. I mean, yeah, if you got no money, I mean, it's going to be difficult to buy a house in this market.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So today we got an interesting guest. His name's Nate Joens. He is CEO of, he's the head of innovation over at Structurally. Structurally does some interesting stuff with AI. They were voted as the top 100 tech company by Housing Wire. They've really expanded under Nate. They've got in the last 4 years, he's been involved. They've experienced 10x growth on conversations. It's a really interesting company. It's an AI company. It's a tech company in our space. So I wanted to bring Nate Joens on the show and talk to him a little bit about what tech is doing in real estate. So Nate, welcome to the show, man.
For having me on. Really appreciate it.
Welcome to the show, dude. So Nate, obviously you're in the real estate space, but more on the tech side, right? Have you always been on the tech side, or how did you get into the real estate space while also marrying the tech side to it?
Yeah. So I actually kind of got Structurally started in college when me and my co-founder decided we wanted to be real estate investors. But when we were in college, we had no money. So it makes no sense to actually do that. So we ended up talking to a bunch of agents, lenders, people from the space, and found that they struggle pretty hard with lead follow-up and conversion. I think everyone in the space is really good at kind of getting face-to-face, converting, kind of getting in there and closing deals. But the behind the scenes stuff is hard for any salesperson, following up with leads, chasing them, being consistent. And we kind of set out to solve that problem with technology. We were lucky enough to bring in some really smart technologists, PhDs in math, stats, software. And we decided to set out and solve the lead conversion and qualification problem with tech, conversational AI, rather than just throwing a call center at it, which has kind of been done for the last 20, 25 years.
Yeah. I mean, that's been the grunt work, right? Is
Yep.
Call center work, follow up on the call center. How does AI replace that and keep it? Because obviously, from a general consumer standpoint, they don't want to sometimes be speaking to AI, they don't, right? So, how do you find a ways to keep that so it's more conversational? I mean, because it's got to be pretty hard considering all the different inputs that you possibly can have.
Yeah, 100%. I'll be the first to admit that no one wants to talk to a robot.
Right.
So I've always said that starting in real estate, and we work in lending as well as leasing, but starting in the general property space, I guess I'll call it, is probably the hardest industry we could have started in. Having really lifelike conversations is like paramount, because when people are buying a house, it's one of their biggest financial decisions of their life. It's usually triggered by a big life event, a debt, the 3Ds of real estate: death, divorce, disease. And there are some positive ones too. A new child, a new job, things like that. Those are all like big life events that require a lot of empathy. And I think a lot of people are like, how can AI have empathy? How can it build the same relationship that I as a human could? And what we've seen across about the 6 million conversations we've had is 99% of consumers believe they're actually talking to a human when they're talking to our product. 99.9%. Wow. And we're able to tell at a really granular level when people are saying things like, hey, is this a robot? Are you a human? What are you? And that's only happening 0.1% of all of our conversations. And a lot of the times we've actually built responses in where if they say, hey, are you a robot? We say, oh, I'm the digital assistant here with XYZ lending team. And then they actually keep the conversation going because we overcome that objection. So there's a lot of like little tiny things that we've done in a conversation that mimic like the way humans talk.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing is you're going to get, because I've used text messaging, AI-driven situations before with our leads. And it was okay. It wasn't great with the company that we use. So what sets you guys apart from some of these other companies that are kind of doing the same thing?
Yeah, I'll be, again, the first to admit that I've experienced horrible AI. I'm sure we all have been on a website. Some little thing pops up in the right-hand corner and says, I'm the, digital bot for so-and-so. You can click one of these buttons to talk to sales, service, or whatever. Right. And then if it says something like, what's your name? And you say, what's your name? Then it'll just break instantly right there.
Correct.
And
right.
That is not the type of conversations we have. Our conversations are very open-ended. We don't use like buttons where you can only click a button. You can only say a certain word. Our conversations, you can say anything at any time because that's how people talk. It's really hard to actually build software or even think through in terms of like your world as a salesperson, how many different like avenues a conversation can go down and what you might need to say next. So we've built lots of little things to make the conversations feel really lifelike. So like we put purposeful typos in our messages that we correct a second later with like asterisk THE if we spell the wrong. We use emojis, we use GIFs. And then I think one of the big things is we've built a lot of robust customization in our products. So like you guys were talking about changing rates, different things to do to get, your offer accepted or at least noticed a little bit better. Every person in the property space, we'll just call it that, has a different offer. You might have like a, entry offer for first-time buyers that's different than, the lender down the street who doesn't work with those folks. Our conversations can be totally customized to every little like nuance that your business has. It's not just like a one-size script fits all. And I think that goes a long way too, to making our conversations extremely personalized, local, and human-like.
Who's the right client? Oh, go ahead, Sal.
I was gonna say, I mean, that's I think like the biggest thing, right? Like I was on PayPal yesterday. I got a text from someone, like one of those like here's your verification code. I got it out of nowhere. So I was like, go on there. I can't figure out how to change my password on their app. So I do like the message and it's like clearly a bot.
Mhm.
right? And someone will call you in a few hours, is what it said. It's like, okay, I just closed my PayPal account. And truly,
Right.
that bad technology and bad AI made me close my PayPal account because I don't have time to wait on something that I know is just not there, like not there's not a human behind it, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So there's potential for turnoff, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
We're not going to avoid that for sure. But like I said, the biggest place where we see turnoff is if they're trying to decide if they're talking to a human or not. And that's happening a minuscule amount of the time. And
Yeah.
we're even handling that as an objection. We put little tiny things that just seem like easy in a conversation. It's actually really hard for like humans to get right, just like empathy. When someone comes in and they're searching for a home or filling out a form at 3 a.m., speed to lead, super important. But if you set up our product to respond at 3 a.m., a common response we see from leads is like, why are you up? Why are you awake right now? This is weird. This is clearly an autoresponder. No one would be up at this hour. And we built like funny replies in there like, oh, I'm working 24/7. I just happened to see this message and wanted to reply quick, like human-like. So I think that goes so far in these conversations. And, just to round it out, like we have humans in what we call humans in the loop, reviewing our conversations constantly too. So our conversation quality is the only thing that we care about because we know that like we're playing with fire a little bit. Your leads are your most valuable assets, some of your most valuable assets. We know that if we have one slip up, that lead might close their account. They might never talk to you again. They might ghost you. Might say, I'm going to go talk to an actual human at this other competitive brokerage. And we know that we have to get our conversations right, which we do.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean,
man. That's awesome.
I think to your point, if it's slick, right? Like for example, I love that, like with an Apple phone, you can just text Apple, right? And they usually like, what are you looking for? Blah, blah, blah. And then they do connect you to a real person once they can't figure it out. Right. But I mean, it sounds like you've taken it to the next level.
Yeah, we're trying. I think it's so weird. I think there's a stat out there that like even Google of all companies, they every single day, some percent, like 20, I think it's 10 to 20% of the queries or inputs that people search in Google are new to Google. They've never seen the query before. And if you think about that, it's like, that's Google. People are searching millions, billions of times a day, and stuff is still new to them every day. The same is true with our conversations. I mean, we've had 6 million, which pales in comparison to the number of times people are searching Google, but every single message is different for us. Every single one is a unique, weird story. People open up to our product all the time, telling us about their entire life story. And that's great because it means they're opening up. We have an opportunity to build that rapport. And we do, but we're ultimately still trying to pass it off to our agent, our lender, whoever is on the other side for a phone call, basically a warm phone call.
So that's the end goal, right? Is getting them on the phone and actually having a phone call conversation with the client, right?
Yeah. And what I like to talk about here is always, dials are dying. I think that we've all kind of been through it. And it's not to say that phone calls are going to, become extinct, but people are answering the phone less because they're a lot more skeptical. If they see a phone call coming in that's a number they don't know, probably going to ignore it. Or it's even become more common that that's being blocked as potential spam by the carriers. And people are never going to answer a message that's from potential spam. But if you have a conversation over text first, say, qualify the lead, basically, I'm going to give you a call, or my agent's going to give you a call from this number, same number, or a different number that we message in the conversation. I know this is a common feature actually in Apple, but what happens is if you kind of give a name in a conversation to a net new number, Siri or Apple's AI actually says like suggested contact Ashley, right? And some of you might have seen that, but that's actually a really kind of sneaky way to actually make your conversations feel less spammy for a number with these leads, or from a number that these leads don't know.
Yeah, you see that in the text, right?
Yep.
Maybe Ashley.
Yep.
Right. Or, you go in to add the contact, it's already pre-filled.
Yep. Exactly. It's an interesting little hack that we've seen in terms of getting a little bit more response rate and teeing up our conversations for a phone call later. Because we can also include like our agent's phone number, and Siri also does things like parses text messages and emails, and it can usually sometimes tie like I've seen it tie a person's phone number in their signature in an email to their contact as well, which is pretty
Oh
common.
yeah. I mean, you'll add a suggested.
So,
Sorry, you'll add a suggested contact. Will have their email, phone numbers, everything, right? You picked it out of an email, which maybe was something that they texted you after, right?
Yep.
I didn't add it from my email. It's like all intertwined.
who's the right client for you? Like what kind of agents make the most sense to use your product?
Yeah, I like to say that if you don't have an ISA team, we typically, get a lot of questions about like, oh, so if I use a product like this, I don't need an inside sales team. I don't need an inside sales agent who's pounding the phone, texting, following up with leads. That's all an inside sales agent typically does, is that behind the scenes work to convert deals. That's what our product does. We are not trying to replace ISAs at all. In fact, most of our best customers are actually high producing teams from the mortgage space, leasing space, or residential real estate space with ISA teams. Our best users are ISAs because we're actually making their lives easier, because they don't have to pound 100 times, get them, 99 no's for the one yes. They get to basically open up the top of their funnel a lot more, so they can just a lot more leads, only call the ones that our product has qualified, and kind of work those warmer leads. It makes their life a lot easier, a lot more enjoyable. And so I'd say like our sweet spot for customers is, kind of established teams with a decent number of leads, whether old leads. So we work old leads too that might be stale in your database, or, a decent lead volume for net new leads. But that's not to say we can't work with a new agent either. What I always like to say is if you don't have an ISA, you are the ISA, because it's your job to follow up with all those leads, to convert those leads.
Right.
And you've got a million other jobs as a new agent. So maybe you want to augment your lead follow-up and qualification with a product like ours to kind of get your feet under you.
I'll give you an example. Like we as a business, like we did a lot of leads. We've since turned it off just because we generated thousands of leads. Mm-hmm. So I've got thousands of leads just kind of sitting there. So would this product be something that could go in there and farm that lead pool?
Yeah. We like to use the analogy of kind of sifting the dirt from the gold, because you definitely have a lot of gold in those old leads. I've talked a little bit in some previous podcasts about like a little thought experiment is I believe lots of agents, teams, brokerages could actually turn off their new lead spend and be just as productive with those old leads. They could just focus on those leads they've already paid for, really try and sift them out and qualify those that are already in their funnel, and probably not really see a dip in productivity or revenue.
Yeah. What's the cost for your product? Did we lose him?
So that conversations a lot. Yeah. We obviously tailor our conversations a lot more specifically to old leads when we have those conversations, because the messaging is totally different.
The cost to get something like this set up and get going for an agent, because that's obviously that's going to come down to the bottom line of the agent. So what is it also set your program up with like, let's say we wanted to do our old leads, how much would that cost us?
Yeah, so it's all based on lead volume, and it doesn't matter if it's a new or old lead. So our packages start at just $299 a month and go up to like $1,500 a month for, I think it's 1,000 leads. So obviously the more leads you send through, the cheaper per lead it gets. And that gives you 12 months of follow-up for every lead too. So that's one thing that's kind of been not spoken about is we do the long-term follow-up too. Lots of agents kind of give up after the third, fourth attempt. We contact leads 52 times over text and email over a year. So we're pretty aggressive with our messaging.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What your opinion, obviously you're striving to be better every day. What can you guys do to be better on your side? Are you guys like fully formed, or are you still working on the product as we speak? I think we froze. He froze. We froze him. Our AI is not good. Maybe we should do a show and just have AI do our show. You think people would notice? That's interesting. A tech guy no. Sal, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you guys.
It's only on his end.
Okay.
It's not.
Sorry. You back?
Yep, I think so.
All right. So did you hear the question?
No, I don't think I did.
So basically my thing is how do you guys get better, right? How do you improve every day?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Like I said earlier, we have a human in the loop team who constantly reviews our conversations in real time for basically quality assurance. And what they're doing there is a small subset of all of our conversations, they're hand labeling. So I always kind of have to give my little spiel about there's no such thing as self-learning AI, because there's always someone who's taught the AI at some point down the road. And that's what our team is doing with constantly reviewing conversations. They're picking out things that the AI did right or wrong. They're saying this was good, this was bad. And there's a whole kind of field of study in machine learning called reinforcement learning, which is exactly that. You did good or you did bad. And that's the type of things that we're doing with our product and with input from our customers as well to improve like our script quality, the questions that we ask and answer, as well as the things that the AI is predicting it should say next.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. So you guys are constantly improving the predictability, the AI, that you guys have humans kind of watching it. It's really interesting. So on your team, I guess here's the question that I really wanted to ask. How are you delivering these leads? How are they being given to the agent? Are you guys syncing with their CRMs? Do you have your CRM?
Yeah, so we integrate with about 10 plus of the common I'll just call it like prop tech CRMs. So these are like Follow Up Boss, Boomtown, Salesforce, even more of the general ones, HubSpot. We're integrated with a decent number of the CRMs that are used in the prop tech space. And it's really easy to what we call like ingest leads, where you basically queue up a list of leads and tag them. We'll just use that as kind of the term as like eligible for Structurally. And then that automatically sends them over to Structurally and we engage them. And obviously through most CRMs, you can set up automation to do that. So like little if-thens where if the lead has a lead type of buyer and has not been contacted, send to Structurally or add that tag, which sends them to Structurally. So that's the way that we typically like to ingest leads, is by listening to the things that you're doing in your CRM. And then we've actually built two-way integrations where we can send our conversations back to the CRM so you and your agents never have to log into Structurally. That's the idea. We don't really want you logging into our dashboard. We want you thinking like the AI assistant that we give you is literally living in your CRM alongside you.
That's awesome. Now, if someone doesn't have a CRM, do you guys provide one, or is there a way to do this without having a CRM?
Yeah, we do have a dashboard. It's a pretty lightweight CRM, I would consider it, where agents can log in, manage the conversations. You can take over the conversation from the AI at any time too. You can see the conversations happening, and we have mobile apps too, where you can kind of see it on the go as well.
That's awesome. And how are your conversion numbers? So obviously, let's say, I've got 1,000 leads. How many of those are being engaged? How many are actually getting engaged as far as your numbers go? Do you have a sense in that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Again, across the board, we've seen about a 57% engagement rate, kind of as the first stage, if you will. We automatically categorize our leads into 5 stages with the help of the AI. It's responded, not responded, interested, not interested, and basically needs agent follow-up, which is a qualified lead. So 57% engagement kind of off the cuff. And then the most important stage that we care about is that last one, which is needs agent follow-up. That's basically someone raising their hand in a conversation. They're saying something like, hey, I want you to call me. I'm not working with an agent or a lender, and I need a referral or introduction that way. I want to go see a house. Or if they're saying, yes, you can call me at 2 p.m. tomorrow. Basically a hand raiser. And we see about 17% of all of our leads make it to that stage as well. So that's total. That's not of the 57% that respond. That's 17% of all of our leads make it to that agent ready stage.
What sets you apart from other similar companies that are doing the same thing?
Yeah, again, I would probably say it's the conversation quality. That's what sets us apart. We've all kind of experienced the really bad chatbots that make people like us close our PayPal accounts. So I would say that that's just something that that's just unaffordable in real estate or mortgage or leasing. You can't have a conversation that goes south. And I'm not saying that we've never had a bad conversation. We're constantly reviewing them for the utmost quality, but it's just the conversation quality when it comes down to it, which sounds really easy. Getting a conversation right with AI is really challenging, though, to do the little things that a human does, to handle objections softly but respectfully while moving the conversation forward. I think when we set out to start structurally, we said we want to build a product that's indistinguishable from human. And I think we've done that. Our next goal is to make it better than a 20-year veteran in the industry. And I think we're taking steps to do that, but we want it to feel like it's been a salesperson for the last 20, 25 years. And it's kind of seen objections, it's handled objections. It can kind of, handle conversations just like an experienced veteran.
That's awesome, man. What are some of your clients? What do they say about the product? I mean, what's the feedback that you guys are getting?
Yeah, I would say that one of the most interesting ones that I always like to tell a story of is a lot of our customers really adopt it as an actual member of their team. So they give it a name. You can customize the name. We've even seen people put a fake picture of it on their website and say this is a real member of my team. And then some of the funniest stories I think are when our customers are saying their leads, their customers are coming in and asking for the AI in person to meet them, which is really weird, but kind of funny. But I think
what do they say?
The agents or lenders usually say oh, they're out of the office this week, they're on vacation or something like that. Some of them have said oh, okay, that was an AI program, and we just are here to serve you in really sophisticated ways with technology like that. So we've seen people be a little more honest, I guess, if you will, with that. But we really like that approach. Really adopting it as a member of your team goes a long way, makes your team seem bigger, more sophisticated. And, it's just the right approach to kind of it's our best practice recommendation for handling our product too.
That's awesome. All right, man. Why don't you tell I love it. Anything else that you think is pertinent that the audience should know about your product?
No, I don't think so. I think covered a lot. I would just kind of reiterate too that if you don't have an ISA team, if you feel like this is, a little out of your grasp, you're just trying to figure out where to get the next lead. If you don't have an ISA, you are the ISA. And if you're still, looking for the next new lead, consider what you already have in your database. Like you mentioned, you have thousands of leads in your database collecting dust right now. That's a great way to start. That's a great place to start.
Yeah, I'm going to talk to you after the show about that because I've got a lot of leads. So if you stick around, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. I'm curious on how we can potentially do this. Tell the audience. Well, let's do this. We're going to do 3 questions. They're random questions that we ask our guests at the end of the show. But before we do that, tell the audience how people can get a hold of you, man.
Yeah, so I like to put my money where my mouth is, I guess, a little bit. A lot of people are very skeptical of AI, and I totally understand that. So if you want to test it out yourself, that's where I always like to say go next. It's testyouraiassistant.com. You can fill out a form as if you were a lead and have a conversation. And I always like to give it with a little asterisk here that try not to break it. We see a lot of weird conversations, trying to test its limits, saying hey, what planet are aliens from and what language do they speak? We'll have a conversation like that and it'll be good, but really give it a shot. You are a real lead. Definitely ask it some funky questions and try and break it, just within reason, not weird alien questions, please.
See, I love that you guys have
I just spelled it out.
You did?
Test your AI.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. I love when people do that, when they put their product out there just to be used. One of the reasons we use our LOS platform is because he allowed us to use it before we actually got to do anything. So kudos to you to put your money where your mouth is on that. That's awesome. All right, man, let's get into 3 questions. They're totally random. So first question I'll ask you, if you had to eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be and why?
Oh
no.
Honestly, I think it would be chips and salsa. Pretty easy. It's a classic.
Well, all right. You can't so you don't think you'd get sick of the salsa, bro?
Nope. Too good.
That's awesome.
It's filling. I like to say it's vegetables, right?
Yeah. Other than you guys in the tech space, who's doing stuff that's impressing you right
now? Outside of tech? Or just outside of our company?
Outside of your company. Just what other tech companies in real estate are kind of making some waves that you kind of are like, okay, man, they're doing some good stuff.
Yeah, I would say generally in the AI space, there's a big open source company called OpenAI, which is actually a former Elon Musk company, but they are on the bleeding edge of AI. There's a really, really interesting model out there that they put out called GPT-3. If you want to do some research and fun homework, it's the world's largest natural language processing model, basically. And I think that they're going to change the world, if they haven't already, when it comes to conversational AI.
Awesome. Sal, do you have a question?
If you had to do something completely different than what you're doing now, right? If you had any chance to clean slate your career, what would you do?
That is an interesting question. I would probably say something in the conservation or forestry division, just being out kind of the complete opposite.
Like a park ranger or something?
Yeah, no technology, out in the wilderness, just the complete opposite side of the spectrum.
That
would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Right? No phone ringing other than, saving little bear cubs or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Nate, dude, thanks for doing our show. Hang back. I would just want to talk to you after the show, but thank you for doing our show, man. I think it's super interesting what you're working on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Awesome,
all right,
man.
Nate.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you in a minute.
Yeah. I mean, you could have one lead, you could have 5,000 leads. If you don't follow up with them, you can't convert them, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well,
good stuff.
Everyone. That's it, man. Anything you want to add, Sal, before we go?
Nope. Let's get to it.
All right, everybody that's been listening, thank you for making it through the show. If that's your first time, I know it's weird, but we have a weird show. So hang in there wherever you are. I know there's a lot going on geopolitically. If you guys want to see us live, go to Facebook.com/IRE Podcast. You can also go to YouTube. Go to irepodcast.com. Please send us a message. Tell us what you guys want to see on our show. Love to hear from you. Until then, we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
See ya.
You've been listening to Inside Real Estate, the nation's top real estate podcast. Don't forget to follow us at irepodcast.com and everywhere where podcasts are available.